Welcome to Central News for Thursday the 3rd of October. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Tonight we are with the South Waikato District Council candidates. The South Waikato District population at the last census in 2006 was 22,641, of which 65% lived in Tokoroa. Other towns in the district are Tiro, Putaruru and Arapuni. There are 4 candidates running for Mayor of the South Waikato. Bob Nicholas was uncontactable. Anne Hill and Tracy Dean. Current Mayor Neil Sinclair is running again after 9 years as the Mayor. He could not make it as they are in the middle of district plan hearings. But Anne Hill and Tracy Dean could join me tonight in the studio. Thank you very much for coming along. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start off with what we've done with all the other candidates is we're going to give you a minute on the clock just to say a little bit about yourself and why people should vote for you as Mayor. We'll start with you, Anne.
Okay, a little bit of myself is that I'm a mother of 10 and 19 grandchildren to count. I have a wide experience of many things going from I'm the sort of person that is a hands-on person and want to get the job done. I'm not to sit there and talk about it. So I feel there is need of change. I also feel that with the experience I've had with being in the Citizen Advice Bureau, I got to know people and what the needs were, and I had a lot to do with dealing with the council then. So I now need to put it into action myself. There is a big need in the South Waikato for a big change, and that is why I'm running.
Tracy, what about you?
I've been in business for 25 years here and in Britain. I believe South Waikato needs a change. I want to bring some strong leadership in there, honesty and integrity into our council. I think there's a lot to be done as far as economic development and promoting the district, and I've got good experience of that. Running the organisation's fairly straightforward. I think it's this future's very bright and it hasn't reached anywhere near its potential, and I'd like to take it there.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. And Neil supplied us with this statement. My passion and dedication to the South Waikato is well known. The achievements over the past 9 years by any standard have been impressive, and like all rural mayors, I am determined that whatever reorganisation takes place, local democracy and the ability for local community to determine its future and direction is paramount. He says he is a firm believer in collaboration between councils, and that's why he sits on the Waikato Mayoral Forum as well on the Bay of Plenty Mayors. Now we have to take a break, but up next we talk debt and rates. Welcome to Central News and our mayoral candidates for the South Waikato District. The South Waikato does not have a major issue with debt, but is it something that you would like to address, Tracy?
I'm actually fairly happy with the debt level at the moment, and I think most people are, though there are others that would prefer us to have none, and that's a possibility for us because we have a South Waikato investment fund that would remove our debt completely. That's not always the wisest thing. In a recession, it's quite good to use your debt and strengthen your infrastructure while you can negotiate contracts and things like that. So it's just a balancing act, but we are fortunate that it's been managed well and we're a wealthy district. So yes.
And does the debt worry you?
Doesn't worry me, no. I'm a person that would like democracy, so for me, I'll be putting it to the public on what they want to do. The amount that we do have, either part of that can pay off the debt if they want to be debt-free, or we can work wiser and smarter by starting with the small things, like the rubbish bags. They don't need it to be with the label on it, just cutting down costs within the council itself. We can manage our debt and manage to get on top of things.
So, another big issue for councils is rates. What do you think is an acceptable amount of rate increase?
Well, I'm guessing the South Waikato would say none. But with inflation and other things that are uncontrollable, like our energy and telecommunications, I aim to make it as a very bare minimal, because people that are on pensions and low income find it unworkable, and their disposable income is lessening as the month goes by, each month. So we have to look at other ways really than increasing the rates, find other ways to be able to even that balance.
So you wouldn't put the rates up past inflation?
I would aim not to. I would try finding another way.
Tracy, what's an acceptable amount of rate increase?
I agree. It shouldn't be beyond the CPI, Consumer Price Index. I don't think it's necessary. I think it can be less. I don't see that it needs to be that figure set and raised every time. A lot of people didn't get wage rises to suit that through that recession. I think we could be more prudent with our money. I can see waste. There's a flaw in the fundamental way accounts are done in big corporates and councils, and that is that they allow a budget, and there's a mad flurry of spending as you get to the year end, so that they don't lose that budget for next year, which means that you do last minute buying unnecessary goods. I have ideas of how to remove that necessity to spend, and that's an easy place to cut immediately without any fuss to anybody. But there's a lot of other ways, and of course with this mayoral forum with the economies of scale working together, there's ways to save through there as well. And I'm for that collaboration at this stage. Yeah.
So if you don't put the rates up, do you think that you could still pay for the infrastructure for the district?
The rates would still need to increase, but less than the CPI. You do need to continue to strengthen your infrastructure. That goes without saying. It has to be there. That's our core function. So no, we need to spend.
And do you believe, Anne, that you could still put that core infrastructure in without putting the rates up?
Pretty sure. Without having to be in there. Okay, Neil has the upper hand because he's in there. He knows exactly what's there, and anything that's hidden, he knows about. We don't have that privilege at this point in time, but there are other workings that, like I discussed, the rubbish bags, things like that. There's no need to have specialised things. That can all go, and that money can be saved and put towards the infrastructure, things like that, instead of putting their rates up.
And what about the investment fund? I mean, the South Waikato is quite unique with their investment fund. What would you like to see that investment fund funded to?
A number of things, but once again, like I said, it'll be going to the community. The community have their own views of what they'd like to see, and we need to take care of that. That's what we're here. We are public servants, so we're there to serve the public to the best of our ability, and that is what I aim to do. So I have views of a better district. The district as it is now is not what I would call, when you go into Tokoroa, it's more like a slum area. And for Tokoroa being the seat where the district council is held, generally and usually is the crown and glory of the place, Tokoroa is not. So there is a lot of improvement to make in Tokoroa itself.
And what would you be looking at kind of putting that investing fund into?
Right, well I'm an overall South Waikato thinker. Being in the Economic Development Department at Council, the potential's huge in South Waikato. The investment fund, my preference is to hold on to capital and just use what's left, and this year that pulled back 2.6 million. That's a lot that a little district can spend in a year on something useful. I'm implementing a brainstorming forum session prior to all council meetings. It's a new thing because the voice of the people has gone from our district. They don't get an opportunity ahead of time to create ideas or solve their own problems in an open forum that they're all invited to. So I'm implementing that ahead of all local government required meetings, and that will give them the opportunity to brainstorm what to do with that 2.6 million. And I'm very particular about having youth there because they will not stay if they don't see a future. So I want them to come and brainstorm with businesses and the elderly and everybody else who's interested, and we'll work out what they think they can see in 20, 40 years' time and use the cream off the fund for that. I know Council's protecting that fund. They're worried that it will get frozen in the event of a proposal from an amalgamation. It's sensible, but it does concern me that it's being removed. I think there were ways of holding it in Council. It's a matter of who you trust outside of Council.
Well, thank you very much, ladies. Now we must take a break, but up next we talk just that, amalgamation. If you have just joined us, you are with Central News on TV Central. Now, many are saying that amalgamation could hit the South Waikato district the hardest, as it is one of the smaller districts and its voice could be lost. Do you support amalgamation, Tracy?
South Waikato is in an unfortunate situation at the moment where we've been given no information about amalgamation at all until it became an election issue that Neil Sinclair raised. So our people are currently not sure whether they want it or not. Some are very happy about the idea of economies of scale, saving money by being part of regional council of that bigger block, and of course that suits central government's core function and infrastructure desire. But others are worried about losing their identity, and we are a wealthy little district, and that concerns them as well. But they haven't been given everything laid out in facts and balanced opinion at this point. It is all quite emotional. My stand on amalgamation is whatever those people decide once they're fully informed is what I will voice and stand for when the time comes. If they decide to be independent, we can achieve that. I'm fairly certain of it if they stand together. And you're right, if amalgamation did come upon us, then we need to have a sufficient voice, and if it's not big enough, I'm sure they'll just vote for being one out on their own.
Do you support amalgamation?
No. Sorry, pretty direct with that one. I've seen too much of what has gone on with Christchurch, with Auckland, with Temple View. No one is happy. There was a place done over in Australia. 90% did not want it, but they still went ahead with it. The place ended up very depressed, rates went up, and the town now is just, not a nice place to live in. And they wish they had never done it. The people there didn't want it, and they stuck to it. And they're still saying, we don't want it. On the 6th of August, Wellington wrote in the papers, amalgamation is not the way. And it showed that it's the little people miss out. The little person is just going to be pushed out. And that's the way I see this mayoral forum, the way it started now, is a first step to amalgamation. So I'm kind of against it. I don't want us to lose our identity. I don't want us to be left out, and I don't want us to have to suffer the way everybody else has suffered. We're doing okay. Like Tracy said, we're one of the richest. We're probably only, second lowest in New Zealand for debt. We're doing fine, and if we keep pushing the way we are, bringing businesses in and getting the youth, the education there, we'll be fine.
Do you think that the Waikato Mayoral Forum then, does it go far enough when it comes to sharing services and sharing costs?
My point of view, looking over what has already been presented, it is just the first step to amalgamation. It's like they want everything, and I don't think it's a good idea at all, because you start that, then government's going to look at you and say, well, you're already basically doing amalgamation, why not have amalgamation? And no, we will get left out. We're an hour away from Hamilton. They've left Temple View out, and that's part of Hamilton. So us being an hour away, what are they going to do to us? So, yeah.
Yeah, so do you think that the Waikato Mayoral Forum goes far enough?
I've been fortunate enough to sit on the economic development staff side of the Mayoral Forum, and what I observed there is the ideas flow freely from South Waikato and everywhere else, and we're actually leading the way in a lot of things that we do, Trade Training Centre and our education hub and those kind of things. And with economics, I actually went to Waikato when I first started in economics in South Waikato, trying to leverage off them, thinking they would have a wider strategy, and they didn't have one, and this is what they were pulling together in the Merrill Forum that I was at that day. So I was busy contributing to that, and then they wanted to share some jobs that needed to be done to meet some deadlines that were required by the Merrill Forum, and while the smaller districts put their hands up and said, yeah, we'll be willing to do that, it wasn't forthcoming from the others. So it does concern me that they'll leave us to do all the work, the bigger ones, because they're simply under-resourced. Well, we all are, but if they're that committed to a true economic development strategy, they should all be putting in the same time. So no, we won't want to do all the work and, and get nothing out of it. I do like collaboration. I've worked with a lot of the other councils with my counterparts, and that's essential, I think. And big businesses do this all the time. They're always looking at ways to reduce costs, and councils should be. Businesses have looked at councils thinking, why are you spending so much when if you just worked with each other you'd be able to get some economies there. So I like that idea, but I'd need to see, once we're in those bigger panels, that we're actually respected and included.
Now, just quickly before we have to take a break, if amalgamation did happen, how do you ensure that the South Waikato still has a voice?
Well, that's true. I mean, how it is presented will be interesting. How do they present an amalgamation proposal to us? And if there's only one candidate for us, I would say that's way too few for us. That won't represent all of us at all. We have such a variety of people. We've got all our industries. We need to make sure that our diversity is represented. We have a lot of cultures. We are probably one of the most multicultural places outside of Auckland. I don't believe one person would represent us satisfactorily, so I would just say don't do it if they haven't got enough. And how would you ensure that a voice was still heard?
If we are enforced to have it, I'd be putting the biggest representation I could in there. Someone that is, well, more than someone, as many as we could, willing to make a noise and is as vocal as they can to push for the South Waikato, that we don't miss out, that we are heard, and that, like Tracy said, we're not going to be left doing the work. We are hard workers down there. Those that are all participating with everything, we put everything into it when we take something on. So we don't want to be left holding it all either.
Right, now we have to take a break, but just ahead we put the viewers' questions to the candidates. Welcome back to Central News with two of the mayoral candidates of the South Waikato District. As I mentioned earlier, the South Waikato population is around 22,000, but the population of the district took quite a blow since the 1990s and has dropped 4,000 people since the 1991 census. And do you see this as a problem, and how would you try to encourage growth back to the district?
No, I don't see it as a problem. I actually see it as a challenge to work harder. To encourage businesses here and to build actual businesses into the South Waikato by advertising and showing all our pros that we have here. The one key thing that South Waikato has is that we are central to all of the North Island. So anyone looking for transport